The ego is the worst confidence trickster we could ever imagine. Because you don't see it.
Yes. It's that time again. It's Sunday. Welcome to another episode of Ground Ego. It's your man, the Digital Sapper. I'm here with... Actually, Humble Flash isn't here this week. The man proved probably the most ironic name in the game, Humble Flash, because he's anything but. But yeah, I'm here with the Kaiser.
Yeah.
Kaiser tried to do his best Barry White impression. But yeah, also here with Mr. Sebastian Strange.
What's up?
And yeah, we've got a long overdue brother in the studio, Mr. 252.
Yes, what's good? Glad to be here.
Don't give him too much stick for that name, but yeah, we'll keep it moving. So,
do you want to explain the name?
It's pretty corny actually. Basically,
that's quite humble of you.
yeah, it's definitely corny, but it is what it is. It's basically like back in uni. I used to do. There was this module, economics module in uni. Did really well with it, and like helped out a lot of people as well. So yeah, kind of stuck a little bit.
Oh, cool. Okay, so, yeah. Fair enough. What? And the module was 252.
Yeah, EC 252.
Cool.
Yeah.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, there is some intelligence on this show. But yeah, we're all intelligent still. But yeah, it's been a busy week. Once again. A lot's been happening. But I guess this week we'll be going on about an issue which has been happening for a while, like especially with the Chinese premier arriving in the UK, signing some deals which may disadvantage more people. But yeah, at the moment, the housing market in London is a bit of a madness. I remember I wasn't born in London, but when I moved to London, we lived in Northwest and then we moved to an area called Plaistow. And I remember the amount of money which my mum paid for rent for a 3-bedroom house. I can't even get a room now for that price in the same area. It's a bit crazy. Rent is more than mortgages. And it's hard to get a mortgage because most of them are going to, well, not most of them, but a lot of them are going to buy to invest or just foreign people who are just buying and like gaming the property market, in my opinion. Like what hope does the average Londoner have, in jumping onto the market? Are we destined to just live in rented flats for the rest of our lives? Is this going to become a cold version of Tokyo? Like what does the future hold? Like,
yeah, it's not good. The future's not looking good at all because like what's happening right now in London is you have the Chinese, you have the Russians, you have the Arabs all buying property in London just because London's a prime location. And due to some of the economic forces over there, like people trying to find a place where they can park their money and the value will retain the value and hold over a certain number of years. So London has become that sort of a prime location for that. And then you have Boris Johnson's policies, that have, encouraged that kind of foreign investment. But when you look at what it's doing to people already in London, the lack of social housing, and when you connect it with that as well, this twin forces is basically making it really, really difficult for ordinary people to, buy a home, like just have a home. And
so do you not think, I mean, obviously with regards to social housing, there's a certain amount that the government should do in terms of obviously social responsibility to make sure that people who, are in need are housed properly and sufficiently, and there's not long waiting lists to get, to get a place to live. But beyond that, how much really is it up to a government or, the mayor of a city to intervene with what should ultimately be a free market? To what extent do you see it as the government's responsibility or, banks' responsibility to not basically hand out money to people who want to, if it's a market, things have a price, and if there's someone willing to pay a certain price for it, isn't it, is that not free market economics?
Free market isn't working when the vast majority of people can't afford the houses they live in. That's a ridiculous situation to be in. So when you're in a situation where most people can't afford to live, then that means like you either have a bubble or like the houses are overpriced, and that's what's happening a lot of the time as well. There used to be a dedicated quota in terms of like social housing. It's only in recent governments like post post-Thatcher era, basically, where social housing is really the priority to build social housing has gone down, and it's just been essentially opened up completely to the market. And if we're going to say leave it up to the free market, what you're having is a lot of developers are gaming the system. If you want to talk about gaming the system, they're gaming the system because they're sitting on land, they're sitting on housing, they're not building, because the less they build, the more the pressure goes up in terms of like housing, the scarcity, then they can charge more, rent prices go up, property prices go up. So a lot of the time it's really an artificial market a lot of the time, because they used to have to compete with social housing. So social housing kind of regulated the market in a way and made it more affordable for people that aren't as well off. But now social housing has been taken out of the equation completely. Now, private renters, construction companies, whatever, developers, they can just sit on land, they can sit on projects and just try and make the value go up and inflate it artificially, really. So the free market's not working when ordinary people can't afford housing.
So what is, like, I'm thinking, who's the big bad wolf in all of this? Like, who's the person that needs the wrist wrapped like by the public? Who do we need to really go and campaign against? Because I've got a few friends who would call themselves, I wouldn't say vigilantes, that's probably too good a word for them, but they're people who get frustrated at the way London is going, and
rightly so.
And they're the sort of people that will go and turn up to Brixton and start smashing up a Foxtons or doing stuff like that. And it's like, are those really the people who we should go against?
Well, they are part of the people we should go against.
Why? Because
they are part of the people.
If you're a fish, let's say you're a fishmonger, if the price of fish increases, should you stop selling fish? And do you then start having to go at the fishmonger? And Foxtons for me is a fishmonger of the property market. So for me, the problem it's not Foxtons.
I think there's one starts with
Foxtons, yeah.
You guys don't know it yet, but you're paying for this ad time on our podcast. Yeah, I think there's a subtle difference there in the sense that estate agents, when you bring commission into the selling of a property, your fishmonger doesn't necessarily, in that sense, make commission of the sale of a piece of fish. It's that way of business is slightly different. So in general, it's I think estate agents have the ability to, within localized areas, inflate prices a lot more than a fishmonger would be able to. One single fishmonger would be able to inflate the price of.
Do the estate agents, do they set the prices for the properties, or is it the owner or the developer?
Well, I think it varies on the level of experience.
Oh,
for example, if someone who knows relatively little about the property market, I would take the word of someone like an estate agent, obviously in conjunction probably a surveyor, etc., to value my, to give value to my property. So is it, I mean, a cynical side of me would think, well, it's in their interest for the property market obviously to be as inflated as possible. But then, like we've alluded to in this conversation, if you obviously have a situation whereby it's a bubble and it bursts, you obviously risk inflating the market so much so that business doesn't get done, the market slows down, stagnates. So the other side of me says, well, would it really be in their interest to obviously do that so much? I don't think they should be the target of people's scorn. That they're there to capitalize on a market like anybody else.
To answer TJ's question, I believe that the fault lies with the government. It has to. Like they're allowing communities to be completely dismantled by forces outside of their control. Like the area I live in, obviously I'm not gonna say for the sake of my safety.
Still hiding from the feminists from the last few episodes.
Like over the past 10 years, I can't even remember what this area was like 10 years ago.
Sorry, just quickly before you carry on your point, that's really weird you should say that, because I have a friend who lives around the corner from you, and I've obviously visited him over the last 10 years actually,
Yeah.
pretty much. And just as I was walking from the station here, just now, I had exactly the same thought. I was like, I can't believe how much this area has changed. Like I was thinking, I didn't used to feel safe really, like to a certain extent, 10 years ago in certain parts.
But you feel pretty safe now, right?
Yeah.
That's something which has been raised by a lot of pro-gentrifiers, what I'll call them. Like, let's look at the model area for gentrification in London. It's Hackney, innit? Effectively back in the day known as Crackney. You've got parts of it that were known as Murder Mile, and now those are the places which are full of like places who will sell you a croissant for close to a £5 because it's got a bit of cream in it. It's like these are places which back in the day, if you weren't from, you didn't really venture to, and nowadays people say it's a lot safer to go to. But then the people who originally gave this area character, hence why it attracted people, they're priced out. For example, if you're on social housing and the government sets your limit as £500 a month per rent, like when the person who owns a block in, let's say, Pembury Estate raises the prices and you can't afford to pay them, the government is shipping you off to Wolverhampton. Like, who the heck do you know in Wolves? Like, first of all, you don't know anybody up there. You don't speak like them. They don't like us anyway because we're from down south, we're Southern Fairies. So how do you expect people to just kind of keep it moving? And the whole safe argument is that not saying that's the argument you made, but because it was something which you mentioned, and I've heard a lot of people make it, is that something to justify what's happening.
Well, the argument, your argument that reinforces what I just said, and it's funny what you said about crime and how people feeling safer, and that the association that people make between people that get low incomes and what their criminal status is most likely to be like. And then these same people is as if like you're purging them out and giving them to somebody else so they can be somebody else's problem. And then they're replaced by these locusts. Who I refer to as your modern day hipster. A swarming and like
the imagery is mad.
And the thing is, like, it dismantles the community. Like, the community loses its identity because it's no longer something which represents something. When it's kind of being swarmed by shapeshifters, those that just adjust to what's trending at that particular moment in time, how is that entity supposed to represent anything? Like, even though 10, 15 years ago you may have associated Hackney with crime or whatever, it still had character. It had a lot of character. It represented something. It stood for something. Now that's all getting eroded. And
you think it all looks the same? It's all becoming the same now with all these gentrified areas.
Of course, like, soon you're not really gonna see too much difference between
Peckham, Hackney, Brixton,
Oxford Circus. Like, all these places are swarming in.
It's like, I just wanted to make a point about the crime and safer stuff. Like, if you invested in these areas for the people that were there, then it could have been made safer and still, not pushing people out. So what you're essentially doing is, like, you come in there, you invest in the area and make it livable and make it all the things that you want it to be, and then you kick out the people that have been living in those conditions, suffered through those conditions, instead of them finally having some kind of light at the end of the tunnel where they can actually be even more proud of the area, investing in that. Now you just kick them out and then bring in a new bunch of people, and then they benefit, and then you want to claim it's safer.
Do you agree that it is safer, like, from your experiences, like these areas, your Brixton?
I don't think that matters. Because, like I said, like, you're getting rid of these apparent troublemakers, and you're just putting in another area's hands. to deal with.
I got to say I don't entirely agree with how this situation has been, how the story of that occurring is being told, because look, the gentrification of areas like Hackney and Brixton in London wasn't a choice whereby a government or a group of property developers turned up one day and decided it's cheap to buy land in these areas, so we're going to buy up land in these areas and we're going to make them cool, hip places, so as would be referred to. The way these places grew organically was that ultimately they began with character, yes, because they weren't particularly moneyed areas and they were, zone 2 or suburbs of London. It was affordable to live there and affordable to own businesses there when the centre of London had become ridiculously expensive. So this was like a natural flow of people moving into these areas, and then businesses grew, so property prices rose, so businesses grew more. That's like a cycle that occurs. And I think to a certain extent, historically, isn't that just urbanisation in general? There was, London is outside it used to be the square mile, and it started to become villages that essentially the size of London began to eat up and eat up and eat up, and those were once leafy urban areas. This area that we're in now of yours, that particular massive green space, that's there because this once was not part of a city.
But Sebastian, people need to be protected.
No, I agree. I'm not saying the situation that we're in now is right, but I think it's dangerous to look at it as just a force that has basically come about by a decision that was made binary to say, okay, now these places are going to be clean, safe, and expensive to live in. They grew organically because of the character.
But look, you got countries like Germany that have rent controls. They have rent caps, and that's to protect your common man.
Yeah, the low income.
And that's the thing. Like government's job is to manage all sects of society.
Sure.
It's just a form of management. And when you see the way in which they're siding with entities with big money, what does that say to the rest of us? For the rest of us?
I want to make the point.
I agree.
Yeah, I want to make the point that crime and poverty is obviously it's linked to economic disenfranchisement. So if you have areas that economically disenfranchised, you're going to have crime, you're going to have poverty, you're going to have all those things. If you come in there and then invest in these areas and, create jobs, better infrastructure, all that stuff, it will naturally become, people have opportunities now, it becomes a nice area, people are attracted, their investment is attracted to there, and it naturally becomes safer, quote unquote, as a result. So those areas crime ridden or whatever aren't safe because people in there were just inherently more criminal or unsafe. It's because they were just economically disenfranchised. There was lack of infrastructure, lack of opportunities in there. So when you bring opportunities, things naturally get better.
If we went down this route of let's take I think Hackney's a good example because obviously we've all seen it in our lifetime change from X to Y, for example. One key thing that was crucial, and I was reading about it actually the other week, was, for example, the overground. The whole rehauling overhauling of the rail system.
It preceded that. It was the Olympics.
So
the Olympics is what kind of kickstarted.
Fine. I'm just saying that's an example of what, because 252 mentioned infrastructure. So I'm just saying, that kind of brought that to mind. But if you look at let's take that scenario and as a test, you saying, okay, economic disenfranchisement causes crime and areas to be bad. If you invest in those areas and put proper infrastructure and do the right things to kind of rejuvenate a community,
right,
people are going to want to live there, right?
Right.
So you will naturally get demand for people to want to move there. Why wouldn't your gentrified, white collar, middle class people want to then move to that area? So what I'm trying to say is that this sort of notion of people who can afford to pay rents in an area coming to an area and renting in that area is natural, because that if you invest in communities, you can't. It would be wrong to say and there's also a cap. If no one else can come in basically from the outside, we must just keep rent cheap and maintain.
You have to keep a certain percentage. That's what.
Your logic is so sound and it's beautiful. You can't really disagree with it.
But you're gonna try to.
But the thing is though, Sebastian, is people are being forced out of their homes. And that's a major issue. Like, you're stripping somebody away from their roots.
People have been moved out to other cities.
Exactly. And the thing, and that's the thing, like, not everyone has access to vast amounts of resources. Like, everything averages out. You're always gonna have a certain percentage of people who are extremely wealthy, people who are in the middle, and people who are at the bottom. Those percentages are never going to change. It's been consistent throughout history.
Yeah.
So my argument is that I believe people need to be protected against this.
Sure.
And you're getting communities where the face of it is just being completely wiped off and being replaced by people who don't really understand or even know too much about the heritage of the area that they're adopting.
And they don't care either.
But it's just a fad. It's cool because, they see an article in Time Out magazine and they want to go there. They like the ideas, that there's vintage coffee shops and, they can go there at 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning and gossip with their friends.
Yeah. No. I'm not.
How do you see the contempt and before you jump in there, like, this is something which I've felt about myself a lot. Two things in terms of, investing in your area and ownership. Like, when we talk about, I want to say low income areas, but areas in London of high ethnicity.
Right.
So you like your Asians, your Afro-Caribbeans. It seems that the Afro-Caribbean areas are the ones which slightly, get run through a bit easier.
Right.
And does that also then relate to lack of ownership? So does that relate to, like, we didn't invest ourselves, whereas the Asian communities, they did invest in their areas and they did own their areas. Like, for me, like, Hackney, Shoreditch is all getting gentrified, but the Curry Mile in Brick Lane it seems like it's going to be there forever because them brothers they own their stuff. Yeah. Like, you go to Brixton, a lot of these places are saying the rents are going up, but we've been there for 20 years, 30 years. Within that time, Thatcher, as bad as she was, she gave people the chance to buy stuff, and it did come down to choice of resources. And some people invested in big cars. And other material things rather than investing in their homes. So is that also a part to play, just lack of foresight?
Yeah, I think that's a great point you just brought up there. I think that's a great point you brought up there, because if you compare, you have to go back to how black communities ended up in London for a start. And, how they've been able or not been able to, gather the resources, or you can say they've mismanaged the resources, I don't know. So the point of ownership is an excellent one. So why haven't, black communities in the areas they've settled in been able to own some of the places they settled in, so that when issues of gentrification or otherwise come into play, they're more protected and more resistant. I think there's a number of factors for the reasons for that. I mean, one of the factors you can bring up is institutional racism and the lack of economic opportunities. I think that's one of the prime reasons for that.
I know, but I still see a lot of brothers.
I'm not saying it's the only. I'm not saying that's the only reason.
The latest
of course,
BM.
like, I think that some people have made bad economic.
But then also, if we do split into blacks versus Asians, the Asians, they got it tough too. Like, they actually, like, speaking to some of my older mentors, they were like, there was a point where black people weren't being touched by the your average skinhead. Yeah, the policeman would turn up in a black Mariah and frame in the back underneath the sus law. But Asians were getting it. Even, like, actually, no, forget what I was about to say. I may get lynched. But yeah, like I think they suffered institutional racism as well. But I also believe that they just know how to play the game, even on a political level as well. They seem to know how to play the game. And in some of these areas, do we lack that nous of playing the game? And also, when people from these areas do make it, do they then just leave us behind?
TJ, I'm happy you said that. Sorry, digital.
just call me Digi. It's cool.
Like, this is the thing though. It's more of a argument about access. Your common man doesn't have access to such resources, to such level of expertise, and that's the problem. Like, the people at the bottom, because they don't have access, they're always the ones who are shoveling the shit, and they're shoveling the shit because there's people who are more savvy out there than they are, and that's not really their fault. Some people have the initiative to educate themselves. But I know a lot of people that know a lot of stuff, but they can't get access to the people that can open the doors for them. Yeah. And these are the people that need to be protected. Like, when you look at people's wages, right, and you see the costs of their living spiraling out of control. That people buy a coffee for between the prices of £3.50 and £4. A coffee.
I know coffee costs as much as an extra value meal from McD's. It's nuts.
And put that in perspective to people's wages. Do people's wages increase at the same rate that companies' profits do? Of course they don't. So why isn't there an emphasis to bring people on an even playing field with people who do have access to resources, people who are in privileged positions, so they can contribute more and they can be more self-sufficient.
This then leads me on to another point, which, like at some office when I was working for a company called Makeable, who help make your charitable donations transparent. Check them out, makeable.com. Basically, we were inside a building.
I'm going to charge you for that.
We were inside a building called What If Innovation, and most of the people there, they're from well-to-do backgrounds. Lived in like the Chelseas of this world, and they were telling me that they've had to move into places like Hackney and stuff because these foreign guys with more money
Arabs
have then pushed them out.
Taken over Knightsbridge, all those areas, like it's crazy.
Have then pushed them out. So is it then just like a general economic and free market?
Can anyone go into China and dictate terms that will affect the whole populace?
Now the government will stop that.
Exactly. The government
will dead that off
completely.
Literally.
and that's the thing. Like, they protect their agenda.
See, that goes back to the point about the free market.
They protect their agenda. The free market isn't the answer to everything.
I'm not saying because I didn't mean that. I was just saying I was creating a reason for it as to why.
You think it's just like a quasi market? So the free market ideals, but with the element of socialism.
The free market's romantic. It's a romantic theory that people attach themselves towards, that everything organically comes together and works and makes sense. It doesn't work like that.
Free market works up to a point, but you can't have a completely free market.
Of course.
You need government intervention now and again to keep things balanced.
This is the UK. Everything's up for grabs. They sell stately homes out here.
Well, they clearly need to change. You need to change that perspective.
The problem is
because they're discriminating against the common man, and it's not fair because when you allow outside entities like Russia, China,
Chinese as well,
Qatar, blah blah blah, to come in here and raise up the prices to a point that the people that you represent can't even afford. They're forced to flock. They're forced to flock up north, where prices are extremely cheaper.
Economic opportunities up there are lesser.
But look at it though, like
true.
look at it though, like
There's not even enough opportunities for people that are already from up north, let alone us southerners going up there.
and like when you look at it, when you look at the property prices.
I'm a Newcastle fan, by the way.
I don't think that's gonna save you.
And when you look at the property prices, yeah, like in London, a 3-bedroom property, what, 750 minimum you're looking at? Step outside the London Greenbelt, and that you're looking at 250 for a 3-bedroom home.
Average price is $500,000 now.
And it's crazy.
That is just.
My mum got rid of a yard. I already started last year. We lived in Hertfordshire, not too far from London, like a 25-minute ride.
He used to live in Hertfordshire, yeah?
Yeah, he used to live in Hertfordshire, and she got, it was a 4-bedroom, 3-story townhouse. Got rid of it, for less than 300, less than 250. So it's like I see what you're saying about average house prices. It's like there is a massive premium on living in London / Greater London.
The point that you mentioned before that I did want to touch on, which is that, of course, the people who are worst affected are
the people with the least resources.
The people with the least resources. But naturally, the effect is felt, I think, across a much larger sector of society. Like you said, there are people being they're being uprooted, not literally in the sense they're being kicked out, but ultimately they can't afford to live in areas they previously could.
In a lot of cases, it is literally.
Yeah, maybe so. But
people have gone from Kings Road to Mare Street.
Yeah,
But like look at Elephant and the Castle, for example. It's happening literally in some cases.
I think the key point I'm trying to make here is that I think we look at areas that become gentrified in London recently and kind of like what happened with that protest on Brick Lane and the serial
killer cafe.
I think a section of society.
I thought that was misplaced.
But I just think that definitely on them it was misplaced. But I think also there's this kind of real animosity towards a section of society who are maybe young, as I said, like white collar people who earn a decent wage in London but can't afford to live in areas they previously could have afforded to live in. So they go into areas and gentrify them. The people who are talking about who can afford this, that, and that croissant and your gossipers in the cafe. Now, the point I was trying to make is that I think it is wrong to direct fury at them because they are also suffering. Suffering is the you know what I mean. They're
the byproduct.
Yeah,
and because they are the byproduct, I believe that frustration should be vented to them because you can't get a chair. You can't get a chair and dash it through David Cameron's window. But you can.
What do you mean by that?
Not without getting shot. Not without getting shot before the chair reaches the window. But what I'm trying to say, let me just explain my point. Is I understand that you have people who are enterprising. They're trying to fit within this epoch that we're currently in, right? But in the same time, their representation of this phase of discrimination, phase of discrimination, and to reinforce my point, when you have like entities, right, local businesses that's been in that outlet for so many years, 10, 20 years. Now all of a sudden, Sainsbury's is whispering in their ear. And it's like, do you know what? If you raise the rent price and force this person out, we'll come out and we'll pay that price.
But they're not doing it to force the person out. They're doing it because they want the property.
Of course, of course. But what I'm saying is that this is a byproduct of this problem. And you can't get access to people like David Cameron and showcase your frustrations towards them. So I believe that objectively, I believe that it's fine. to throw a chair at a shop like serial killer. Don't get me wrong, like they're,
Wow.
I believe because I thought you were gonna say I'm funding my chest. I'm funding my chest, like because they represent something, and the fact that they represent that problem. And people are venting their frustrations towards that problem.
Yeah,
They're not the core problem.
Do they only represent that problem because they look like your average hipster? But for me,
Exactly.
they've just started an innovative business.
That's
The point I want to make was in terms of like you can't go up to David Cameron. Well, don't we live in a democratic society? So you should be able to. You live in a democratic. You live in a nominally democratic society. So you really should be able to go up to David Cameron and be like, look,
American quote that.
where a lot of gentrification is happening, people are being moved out. What are you going to do about this? I think the other point to make was in terms of London specifically, people voted for Boris Johnson, and it's Boris Johnson's policies that have especially encouraged the kind of foreign investment in London, especially in the housing sector, that has accelerated and exacerbated the gentrification issue we have in London right now. So that's a decision people made. As opposed to someone like Ken Livingstone previously, who had a committed.
He's more of a socialist, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he had a committed cause towards like making housing in general more affordable, making housing more accessible. So that's another thing people have to look into, because a lot of people voted for Boris Johnson out of banter. Boris Johnson had banter and they voted for him. Well, now look what's happened.
I keep telling people like. I love Boris Johnson not because I love his politics and whatever. I love him because he pulls a ruse over people's eyes. Like he pretends like he's this fool. Like you saw him knock over that Japanese guy last week as well.
It's all PR.
But he's very, very, very
smart.
strategic.
He's very smart. Come on, man.
He's very clever.
Very clever dude. But at the same time, just talking about the UK in general, this is a very small island. This is an island where a lot of its riches in the past were built on, as we know, no need to go into it, but a lot of let's just say, to put it nicely, exploring other parts of the world.
Pillaging.
Exploring other parts of the world now, and it's lost that empire. So the UK's it's got to court outside of foreign direct investment, as they called it in economics. So it seems to me that unless you've got resources moving forward in the UK, it's not a discriminatory thing. It's just that if you haven't got enough chips on the table, they're not going to let you in this casino.
Yeah, look, that's a great point.
I believe this. Yeah, anything remotely associated with gentrification, people should vent their frustrations towards it.
Jeremy is part of the reason, is part of how people are voicing their voice against that kind of.
You think he's not a credible leader? He was just like an angry.
According to who? He's not a credible leader.
Who's he?
I think he's a credible leader.
He's a Labour guy, right?
The Labour guy. I think he's a credible alternative. We've had this neoliberal right-wing consensus since the Thatcher era, really, and people have there's a pushback against that now.
Yeah, of course. And Tony was just a light Tory.
Yeah, exactly. And so Jeremy Corbyn, what he's been able to tap into is that anti-austerity message. That.
But can you trust Corbyn though? It's not about. No, I mean like, can you trust Corbyn to literally really lead us? Because as bad as Tony was, like when he came on the TV with his whole twitching demeanor, saying what he said, I believed him. Like I would follow Tony, to the hilt.
Well, you can't trust any. You follow a Pied Piper over a bridge, mate. Like, that's what happened.
But it's like I could see Tony holding his own. I just
That's the
Put Corbyn in a room with
Isn't
what?
that part of the problem though?
With Merkel, with Putin, with Putin. Really? No, but seriously, put Corbyn in.
I rate Putin by the way, but in terms of the Western side of things, like Putin's like,
and even
the epitome of evil, or whatever.
Even his economic policy, like I'm a guy that I really wanted to believe in Corbyn and vote for him. But if I was a member of the Labour Party, I'm not sure I would have done. I'm not sure if any of those guys I would have voted for because.
But here's the thing, though.
They were all kind of jokers. It was all like Reservoir Dogs. You know, one good character, then the rest is just kind of.
Every actor in Reservoir Dogs is significant. That's my favourite film. Shout out to Mr. White.
People are getting crushed under the Tories' neoliberal free market system where everything's just up for grabs, everything's up for sale. We'll leave it up to the free market to decide whatever, and if people, disadvantaged people getting crushed, so be it. Jeremy Corbyn comes along and brings an alternative agenda and taps into, how society is losing its compassion, really losing, its priorities in terms of like taking care of everyone instead of just people that are advantaged and well off and whatever. So if Corbyn's bringing that message and people are tapping into it, now we're gonna say, well, I don't like his style. He doesn't. Are we focused on style or are we focused on substance? For me, I care about the substance. So I don't care if Corbyn doesn't come across like a polished politician like Cameron or Osborne or whatever. I care about the substance. It's not even if you're bringing that substance and bringing an alternative agenda, then I'm going to be for that. I don't care about if you look like polished politicians.
It's not even the polishness. I don't mind. I kind of like that he doesn't wear a tie and he moves the way he moves.
Does now, though.
But
in PMP.
But for me, it's just like, Corbyn's got to deal with a science experiment that's effectively already been going. But the way he talks is that his science experiment is a totally new petri dish, it's a totally new environment that doesn't exist. And for me, it's like, I think Corbyn is good because he's gonna kind of in a way to quote the great late Tupac Shakur, it's like, I may not change the world, but I'm gonna,
inspire
I feel like Corbyn's he's not the guy.
He's of course he's the guy before the guy.
Yeah.
He's the guy before the guy.
He's like a Shankly.
He's the guy before the guy. He's the guy before the guy, or he's, the thing about Corbyn is he's that like one idea extra, beyond where we can be right now. So if he wants to move the conversation to the left, then for me, the person who's going to run the country will be the bridge between where Corbyn is mentally now and what we live in as a society. Does that make sense? So his views, I think, are one step too far forward yet. We won't go from what we have now to immediately Corbynism, if you want to call it that. I think there needs to be.
That's what we did though with Thatcher getting elected. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. Like,
what do you mean?
Before Thatcher?
Yeah, before Thatcher, it was.
Yeah, from the swing. Yeah,
and then.
Yeah, but that
dragged it completely to the right.
Look at that. What that required. That required school kids not getting milk 3 days a week, and the lights not being able to be turned on, and rubbish being all over the place was a state in '79. I'm sure a lot of extremism or extreme in not saying.
It's kind of similar to where we're at right now because we're in a state where house price, the average house price in London is $500,000. Tell me that's not extreme.
Now that's on message.
That's insanity. That is insanity.
The swing is not extreme enough. Corbyn's position is not extreme enough to go to be considered extremism, but is not in the centre ground enough to be. I think palatable to the electorate. And by the way he does come across, you're a substance over a style man, that's fine. But it's important for any leader, anyone who's going to lead the country, to have that.
Hey, guess what? Then you're going to keep getting guys like Osborne and Cameron that will just brutalise disadvantaged people, and then people are going to keep crying about, well, so what do you want? Like, for me, you need to make a decision. You're not going to have 50-50.
He's being idealistic.
You're not going to have 50-50.
Okay, so
I've got an issue when people say idealistic because for me,
everything
is based on ideals.
Exactly.
Yeah, aim for an ideal. But what I'm saying to you is that
you mean you're being utopian?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, fine. 100%.
That's even worse than idealistic in utopian. But the point is,
that's my point.
If you're saying that's been idealistic, that's what I'm saying. I recognize the fact that style is important, but my point is, what do people want? What do you want?
Yeah, of course.
You need to make a choice. What do you want?
Substance, of course, should come over style, but I'm just saying that for someone who is going to win an election for the Labour Party to be able to put across those views that Corbyn has that would benefit society, you need to be realistic in the sense of realising that,
what's unrealistic about it?
No, just for the sake of our viewers, because we're talking about Corbyn's. His name's Corbyn, right?
Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, but his ideals. What are his actual ideals? Because personally, I'm not really too savvy when it comes to politics. So I'm quite interested.
So Corbyn's basically a left-wing candidate. So he wants to scrap tuition fees. He wants to make housing more affordable. He wants to invest in infrastructure. He wants to cut back on the, in terms of foreign policy as well. He wants, a more reasonable foreign policy. He's not in terms of like getting away from the imperialistic foreign policy we currently have right now. He wants to invest in young people. He wants to, bring back social housing as well. So all those things that you would regularly, that in terms of just making sure that everyone in society is taken care of and people in the less advantaged side of society are taken care of. So all that typical left wing you would associate
ideology
as left wing. That's who Corbyn is essentially.
Unfortunately, I do agree with the Tories on the front that, like with a lot of good, left-wing socialist policies, the accounting on them is dubious. I don't think he can find the money to do everything.
You don't think right-wing accounting is dubious as well? When you claim benefit dodges are more more of a string on the fiscal account than paying trillions of dollars to bail out banks. That's not dodgy accounting.
I'm just saying.
There's dodgy accounting,
of course you can. But the reason you're also being utopian is you said you want to do blah 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 blah. How do you account for it? You didn't. Hold on. No. Let me finish.
Complaining about £500,000. How is it utopian now? My God.
As the economist,
we have gone.
As the economist in the room, did you, in any of your points, make one point as to how all of that is going to get paid for? How's all of it going to get paid for?
They've already made the point about how what's it called? The scrapping tuition fees is going to be paid for example. We can pay for scrapping tuition fees by, number one, increasing some of the taxes. Corporation tax, for example, we can account it for that. Tax evasion is massive, billions.
Oh my gosh.
Billions. In terms of like tax evasion,
I second to.
We're not gonna 100% cut down on tax evasion, but 30-40% accounting for that. There are ways where we can, bring the money, bring revenue to account for some of those policies if we want to. There's too much. There's too much loopholes. Exactly.
There's too much loopholes for people with influence, and that's my point. Like, it comes at the behest of people who are considered to be at the bottom of the scale. And the more you narrow these loopholes, the more there's going to be around to support people who haven't got as much access.
But guys, guess what?
Let me make one more point. Sorry, one more point. Uber, £1 million profit. Guess how much tax they pay? 22k. But what the hell? That's part of it. So
that's just an employee.
Exactly. That's an
employee. That's an employee.
You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, look at Tesco's situation. Aren't they registered somewhere else? But they're the biggest employer after the NHS, so they can do these things. But anyways, we'll be back with that in a minute, because right now it's time for an ad. So, Mr. Strange?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out from one of our sponsors. You check out lucyfilms.com, folks. That's Lucy with an I. Lucy Films is an independent film production company, so they combine creativity with marketing strategy and tons of industry experience. Please do get in touch with them and make sure you mention Ground League.
Yep. They're run by a Mr. Gemini Rock, who's got a name made for the film industry. But as Sebastian told me the other day, if he doesn't make it in film, he's got a name made for the porn industry.
So I hear. I have no experience.
But check out Lucy Films. They can work to all types of budget as long as they're past a certain level. Let's keep it moving.
I look when I came out and said the point about your views on Corbynism being utopian, I didn't mean it in the sense of those things shouldn't be aimed for and strived for. The key thing you said is that he can find this money to pay for some of those policies, or maybe to pay for all of those policies, but only to some extent. Like you alluded to yourself, we've basically built this country for the last 35, 40 years on Thatcherism, right? On Thatcher's ideologies. So it will take time to shift back away from that towards, the very good suggestions I think Jeremy Corbyn has put forward as to how our society should be. I a while ago, maybe a couple of years ago, took really, really deep interest in the Scandinavian model.
Right.
And reading about Scandinavian society and making that comparison in my head of,
free healthcare.
Yeah, would I be comfortable?
That.
Would I be comfortable going to work Monday to Friday, earning a wage and handing over pretty much 60% of that at the highest level in I think it's Denmark is the highest, I think. But listeners, do your research because I'm not entirely sure. Would I be okay with that in return for? And their version of affordable housing, by the way, is I think a lot more pleasant than what we would know affordable housing to be here. Good healthcare, the notion that until you come out, until from being a baby until 18 years old, or even 21 years old when you graduate from university, the state will look after you. From 21 to retirement, you look after those in the state that need looking after, and then when you retire, you're well looked after.
Which one of those countries is it that gives you like a massive payment for benefits? Like I heard they don't pay you weekly or monthly; they just give you one big check.
I'm not sure about that actually. I don't know.
Is that China?
No.
If they have like a second child, they just take it all away.
No, we're talking about the Scandinavian.
Yeah, Scandinavian country. Here they just
might be Sweden.
They just give you like a massive check, like 5 figures.
I mean, so
and they tell you
go
build.
My auntie's husband, his parents, he grew up in Denmark. His parents are from there. But when you talk to him about the Scandinavian model, his massive objection and the reason why he left to come here was he felt that it stifled ambition, that it made people very reliant on the fact that, and then this all comes down to wherever your political appetite is, how your socioeconomic appetite is.
I believe in meritocracy.
I think he felt that, to a certain extent, he wanted to work really late on a Friday. He didn't believe in the fact that on Fridays at like 2-3 p.m. everyone just packed in and went and relaxed and was limited to basically this certain wage. And social unrest isn't limited to, it's obviously what happened in Sweden recently. I don't class as social unrest because that is something that can happen anywhere. But you saw the riots. Was it last year or the year before, the riots in Sweden?
I think it was Malmo.
Yeah, it was in Malmo. About basically, again, ethnic minorities feeling that there's not enough opportunity for them in that country and that they're all being penned in together to, basically live like animals. Yeah. And that's a country that looks after its people far better than we do.
Right.
So I'm basically going a long way around and saying, their system is a lot more palatable, but it still has its problems and its issues and its resistance. And so I just think to myself, how do we go from this point A where we are now to the things that everyone who backs someone like Jeremy Corbyn?
So how do we get there? How do we make housing more affordable? How do we stop it so that
price caps.
Somebody that's lived in a block for 20 years or so is not forced to go to the Midlands or Yorkshire because this new developer wants to come in and say that they've got a quota for affordable housing, but further down the line, it ends up
they wriggle out of it somehow.
Yeah, because I live with somebody in property, and we were talking about this the other night. He says there's this well-intentioned group who's trying to do something in the borough of Newham where I grew up, but it's not going to work out because he wants to do affordable housing, but it's not going to cover the costs. So it's like, is London now just becoming too expensive in general? And how is somebody going to come in and change that? And that was my whole point about Corbyn being able to do that affect this change? Because, like I said, in this experiment, the conditions are already set.
I mean, I want to address this point about we can't replicate the Scandinavian model. Culture is different. The economic, how the economy is set up is different. Population size is different. So we're not going to be able to replicate that that system. We can take some things from them. There are some things we can learn from them, but we're not going to be able to replicate that system. There are things that we can do to
Guys, what's funny?
there are things we can do to make things slightly better than they currently are at the moment, but we're just simply too different. For example, like Norway has a population of 5 million.
Yeah.
They have a sovereign wealth account of 700 billion. Like mostly because of their oil exporting country. We can't. we can't replicate that in a million years.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can quite replicate what they've done. But I do think that it's important to bring an alternative. I think that's just the main benefit of having someone like Jeremy Corbyn. I know because the current consensus is clearly not working enough. It's clearly not working, and we need an alternative. So having that scholarly, intellectual discussion, having these discussions about how we can make things better, how alternative paths can be explored to make sure we can do the best for the whole of society, not just a section of society, which is where we are right now.
Yeah,
that's an interesting point, because I remember what's his name again? I just know him as Bottle Job. Chukwuemeka, that's his name. I remember one time when he was talking about how Labour can win power, he's like, people need to remember this isn't the Labour party of the 60s and whatever, where they've got to work on the left. It's like nowadays people want that right wing, those right wing policies as well. You've got to be an attractive proposition to people, like you said, to aspirational. Actually, no, I hate say aspirational. That's saying people who believe in the left wing aren't aspirational,
Right.
but people who want to obtain, a lot of resources and possessions in life. It's like you've got to become attractive to them.
A race to the middle.
Yes, it's like that's why he doesn't believe in Corbyn, and that's why he believed Ed Miliband failed as well. And then another friend of mine, urban lawyer, he mentioned to me that nowadays, like Labour and the Conservatives, they're basically the same. Like that whole distinct ideology is kind of
Hence why people lost their minds when Jeremy Corbyn went in there.
Yeah, and definitely that's why I think he's so good for the UK's political landscape.
And then that also leads me on to another point. And leads me back to that whole point of ownership earlier, why do we have to rely on the government? Should we not pool resources?
Because we can't rely on the free market system.
together. Because then how have other groups been able to
Completely,
rise?
anyways. We can't rely on the free market system completely.
Do you think there's a lack of unity within certain communities,
Of course there is,
which make them easy,
There's like
susceptible to these economic challenges?
there's conversations of scrapping the NHS. The NHS.
Not only conversations, policies.
One of the bedrocks of Britishness, if that's even a word.
British identity.
Of British identity. The NHS, like there's talks of scrapping that. Like, look, think about the ripple effects of such a policy and what that will be replaced by, an insurance system. But think, what else? Who will be the sect that will be most hit by the removal of the NHS? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a sect that isn't regarded high enough on the priority list of these policymakers.
But then also if you use the NHS as an example, it is a bastion of Britishness, and it is something which is to be marvelled at, in regards to other economy. Exactly. But then it needs to be made more efficient. There's a lot of wastage in the NHS which goes to middle managers.
That wastage is a necessary evil in my eyes.
What?
I think
Wait, let me continue. So what you're saying, it's okay, for a middle management to get fringe benefits like private school for his child, the latest Volvo, and then somebody who needs an operation's got to wait 9 months because they can't afford to push them forward. For me, that's not necessarily evil. That's totally wrong. It needs to be modernized, privatized. I don't believe. But modernized, it does.
There's one point on that, which it always is an issue when you come to private sector versus public sector, right? Which is that ultimately the NHS needs to make itself as attractive as possible to people to come and work for it. So yes, that obviously is an extravagance, but ultimately the NHS needs to staff because
they need the best doctors, not the best.
The problem with the NHS is not attracting talent.
Fine,
That's not the problem in the NHS. Like, people are happy. The problem in the NHS is not attracting talent. The problem is funding. The problem is funding, and the problem is how can we cut wastage, and those are the two primary problems.
That's what gets on my nerves.
It's not attracting talent.
They're making cuts, but they're making it in the wrong area. It's
right.
Like, I used to live in Hertfordshire. Yeah? You've got 2 big hospitals, one in Stevenage, one in Welling, and they were like literally, I want to say beefing each other, but competing against each other to get support, so one of their A&Es won't close. But like I said, Humphrey's still coming in his latest X-Type Jag, and he's not doing much. Why can't the Humphreys of this world get cut so, Nancy on the wing can continue to serve patients?
You're going to have inefficiencies and injustices, but I believe that the net profit of the NHS will always outweigh the net costs. That the social impact of an institution like the NHS will always surpass the inefficiencies that people always tend to focus on and complain about. Like, okay, cool, like, the NHS report, we spent X amount of money on, on alcoholism, or X amount of money on this, that, and the other. Okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. The government will always find a way in order to fund the NHS. And the fact that there's a conversation which is surrounded around actually scrapping the NHS, that's dangerous.
It's a travesty.
Very dangerous.
And that's absolutely dangerous, and that showcases the lack of empathy, the lack of empathy towards the man that doesn't have access to resources.
Scrapping the NHS, that's extremist. Yeah. Like, some people, like, I was watching Question Time the other day, and one guy from the Telegraph was calling late Jeremy Corbyn's policies and whatever extremists. Like, scrapping the NHS, that's extremist.
I agree.
Yeah, no, completely. But I think
need the NHS, but we need to modernize it. It needs to be made more.
Of course, I agree with that. With everything, there's always scope for improvement. But you don't want to go to an American model when a doctor hovers around a person that's dying, and they're like, "Has this person got insurance?" Has this person got insurance? Because you take away the sentiment from saving a life, and once you associate pounds and cents with actually saving a life, then you got a broken system, and that's not a system that caters to the people. As you can already tell, the viewers of Ground Ego, I'm a man for the people.
No one comes to feminism,
At least 50% of people.
I think definitely, like, for me, what the big problem with this whole talk about scrapping the NHS is that, like we started the whole conversation about, government is there to protect and look after people, and you get into a whole new conversation of when the government now comes out and says the justification for all of this is that we're going through economic recovery. It was your place to prevent us ever needing to go through. So obviously, as you yourself will know, there's economic cycles, and yes, you understand there's ups and downs. But yeah, exactly. When the people okay, that's fine. You can understand cycles, but when people put you in knee deep in how bad the situation was, and then come out and say, yeah, okay, great, so we're going through economic recovery and it's all good, but we're going to need to take away your free healthcare as a result.
Right.
What's the reason for this recovery in the first place? You've got us here, so get us out, but don't lower my living standards, or even just what we've, and it is, you know, first world problems to a certain extent, but what we've come to recognise as our basic right in this society, which should be everyone's basic right. That, you know, you can't even refer to something like that as utopian. That should be the case. And obviously, unfortunately, in some parts of the world, that can't be afforded. But where it can be, it must be the number one priority. It has to be. So I think, yeah, you know, it's dangerous, and it's just inconceivable that can be a conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to address something TJ said earlier on about what Chuka Ramuna was saying about in terms of like appealing to strivers and people that want to. Right now, Tory policies are making sure that if you're not already part of the well-off, their policies are making you stay there. So people that are voting Tories because like, they're strivers, quote unquote, and they want to get up in that elite bracket or whatever, voting for those guys will make sure you stay where you are right now. There was this woman, single mother, on Question Time the other day, and she was saying about how the Tories' plans for tax credit cuts will make her like £1,000 plus.
The woman who started crying. Yeah.
She voted for the Tories. Yeah, because she was like, hey, you know, I'm a striver. Tories are for the so-called strivers, so I'm going to vote for them. And then, oops, we're taking away tax credits. That's going to lower your living standards. So people have to be careful about what they wish for in that instance. About if we're talking about, you know, Labour's not appealing to so-called strivers. It's no point in voting for the other side if their policy is going to keep you where you're at the moment. You haven't got there yet. So people jump in the gun. When you get there, then you can start making certain choices. But until you get there, be careful kind of choices that you make.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when it came to general election, I was caught in that same sort of a dilemma.
Because you voted for somebody, then you regretted it as soon as you walked out of the booth.
Yeah. I and when I go off air, I'll talk about which way around that was. But yeah, I did, because I voted for someone and walked out the booth, regretted it, and it was just a clash of like what my political ideology is and what I thought would actually happen in the days after. Anyway, yeah, because I'd rather not go down that route. I'm not, you know, we'll leave that for conversations offline. But you can understand that a lot of people in the country right now are kind of left thinking, wow, I didn't really realise what the ticket I was buying.
Something just popped in my head, and I think it's not a problem that, you know, exists solely in the UK. Do you think too much of our economic dependence for the economy is London-based?
Absolutely,
yeah,
100%.
Like when they want to ship people out to different parts of the country, like one of the first things we say is that there's no opportunity out there anyway. So why are they sending us there? So do you think we need to lift up the Manchesters and
100%
and the Wolverhamptons and the Glasgows?
That will eventually happen.
But the one benefit, if you will, from the fact that London has become expensive to live in, I think, will be that cities in and around England and the UK will improve. The only problem is that you'll get to a point, you know, where there'll be the peak of how good that is for the city, and then we'll see the same problem starting to reoccur again, which would be that, okay, but then the locals in that city aren't able to get the jobs in that city because Londoners not knocking down anywhere else in the UK, but we can inevitably see maybe that occurring. Okay, so you get a reverse brain drain, so people flood back out, and your Birminghams, your Manchesters, you know, Glasgow, Edinburghs, etc., will see maybe a rise in talent coming back into the city. I was speaking to someone the other day saying, you know, he might move his young family out to Bristol soon because there's opportunities there, and, you know, Bristol's somewhere that's quite gentrified, I guess, in its own right anyway. But I think it will be good for the UK initially. Maybe it would be useful to look at London's model and say, okay, how can we get this to the best point in terms of making cities better, but stop it at a certain level? A food writer who I read about a lot, read his articles a lot, was talking about how they released the Michelin guide again, and obviously, you know, how they say which restaurants in the UK get stars, and Birmingham has become like its restaurants receive quite a lot of stars recently, and Manchester has none. So it was talking about how Birmingham's, you know, seen as this uncultured place. Look at how many stars it has, and then the guy turned around, he's like, yeah, but hang on a minute. what does that say about this city? All it really means is that people who can afford to eat fine dining can afford to eat more fine dining.
Yeah.
But there's another level called like Bib Gourmand, I think it is, which is for affordable food, and he's like Birmingham still has none of those.
Right.
So great. This is what we can say about the UK food scene. If you can afford to eat well, you're going to eat well in more places. But if you can't, still eat the same shit.
Yeah,
I hate Michelin restaurants. I think your
Yeah.
servings are small. My missus is loving them, and my wallet hates it.
I wanna get a couple of points out to what Sebastian said. There's 2 points. We haven't touched on Crossrail. Read an article in the Guardian. Crossrail is going to increase house prices along the route it takes by up to 60%, 80% in some areas.
Yeah.
So that's another thing we need to fact. So if you got houses close to where the lines are going to pass through, you know, house prices are going to shoot up. Even places just outside London where the Crossrail will come through as well. So that's going to shoot up. So in London, in the core areas in central London, house prices that are already at ridiculous levels are going to increase even more. And then places just outside London where Crossrail might be passing through in the adjunct areas, house prices will increase there as well. So that's another thing to factor in. Another factor is you said that one of the good things that might happen in terms of London becoming more expensive, obviously, is might benefit as a result. Personally, I don't think that there's if you look at, for example, what's happening in America, you know, New York is expensive, so you know there are other cities are all around bring it up. What ends up happening is what happens where people get gentrified and, you know, places costs are spiraling out of control, ends up being replicated in other cities.
Exactly, yeah.
Like there's actually no benefit, unfortunately. In a lot of cases, that same model just keeps end up replicating itself all around the country. Like San Francisco, for example, is a prime example of this phenomenon.
They had a lot of last year,
like 3-4 years ago, you know, they say it's like run down, blah, 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 low economic investment. 4 years later, same problems we're having. Spiraling houses, like a shack, a 1-bedroom shack now costs $320,000. Like, just ridiculous. So I don't think there's any guarantees that other cities will benefit. I think that what's most likely to happen, if we look at what's happening in other countries, America being an example here, is that same model where things just spiral out of control will end up just replicating itself outside in other cities. And third, just one final point. I think that what's happening in terms of gentrification, it's like, I feel like it's a kind of internal cannibalism in a way. Because going back to TJ's earlier point about how, you know, empire and like, you know, foreign direct investment, what happened was they'll go to other countries and take over those countries. If we're talking about Britain, for example, went up to Asia, Africa, took over these countries. People migrated to those countries, South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, you know, went up there, displaced the locals over there and took over the land, took over the best resources over there. Now the empire is gone, you can't do that anymore and go to other countries. Now you got to do that internally. So internally what's happening now is those low, you know, there's disenfranchised communities, those like, you know, low investment communities. Now, because you can't do that abroad, you got to do it internally. So now you're doing it to yourself. Like now you're cannibalizing yourself.
Internal cannibalism.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, or economic colonialism, like someone else's mentioned. So I think that's, you know, that's where we're headed in a certain.
Also, I mean, I think I really definitely on all of those points, and particularly, you know, like you said, the danger is that the model from London will just be replicated in different cities. So kind of my question was, or something that I think about, is that would there be a way to harness this benefit of people maybe leaving London to go to other cities, but doing something to make it then go down a different road? You know, protecting those cities in a certain way to say, yes, bring your talent here, bring your minds here, but only up to a certain extent and only in a certain way. That would just be interesting.
That's where these Oxford economists that tell us that they're experts, you know, that are just also brilliant, also smart. This is where you're needed now to actually do something decent, actually contribute something useful that the majority of society can benefit from. So all you guys at LSE, all you guys at Cambridge, all you guys at Oxford, this is where you're needed now.
But the thing is,
Sebastian needs you.
The thing is, though,
You need answers.
the thing is though, like the thing is that scholars are nothing more than legitimacy tools for people who
For the
really
status
do
quo.
exactly. Like they're the ones that come out who have apparent credibility and support ideals that people flock towards because they have the credentials to support it.
So do you include Jeremy Corbyn's financial advisors in that as well? Because he went after who's the really really famous economist who's got advising him.
What is he? What, British?
He's they're definitely, there's several Oxford graduates there, and I think one of them. I need to get his name.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Remember his name.
But anyway, the point is he's gone and done the same thing. So if that's the case, if those scholars are only tools for legitimizing X, Y, and Z thing, then this person who, and that's the status quo, then this person who we're purporting as being the beacon of change, well, he seems to be following the same model.
Oh, I don't trust any politician. Do not get it twisted. Like, you have corporations which fund both sides. They're leveraging their policies against the people that actually fund them, and these are people that are funding your opposition. Like, think about it. Like, if you were to really get the Labour Party and really get the Conservative Party and analyse what their core policies, they're not their core policies are, but what they generally kind of represent, it all tends to go in the same direction. Because there's a clear race for the middle. And they can do that while advocating that they're supporting whatever set of society, when in the reality they're not. So I don't trust politicians at all. Like, hence why I've never voted ever. I'm not ever gonna vote ever.
I used to have exactly that same approach. So obviously I've only had 2 opportunities to vote. And I didn't vote the first time for exactly that reason. And this time round, I took, between the general election before last and the one that's just passed, I took 5 years of people lecturing me, telling me that I was basically pissing on my duty to society by not voting. And you know what? If I had my time again, I wouldn't vote, because I did exactly what I went and did exactly what I believe the problem with many people who feel disenfranchised in going and voting does, which is this: you're forced to pick just your lesser of evils. And I don't believe you can. It's true though. I don't believe that you should support or promote any force just because you have to pick a lesser of 2 evils. But then, you know what? I always get caught up. The debate always ends, and I always get caught with nothing to say back to a person who says, "Yeah, but if everyone thought like you, and surely there's at least certain things."
They can shut up then can't.
No, but I just mean there's certain things.
Is choosing from two. Is choosing from 2 options really an option?
No, of course not. But in the same light, imagine if that election, if you could look, like 5 years down the line and say, if I don't vote, we might lose the NHS because X party might win. So let me just go and vote for the other party anyway, so I don't lose the NHS. There is a merit to saying there is a certain duty I have, even though all of these things are evil. Don't
ever feel guilted into voting.
Yeah, I mean,
like, if you don't believe if you don't believe in what anyone has to say, it's your right not to partake within the voting process.
Yeah, voting is as valid as not voting. Like, you don't have to. That's part of why you live in a so-called nominally democratic society.
For me,
you have the right to vote or not to vote.
In the last election, I didn't vote. I didn't get a chance to vote, unfortunately, because my housing situation at the time. But what I was planning to do was just to submit a spoiled ballot, because for me it's like I was looking at the issues around me. I can see the energy companies are rampant. Nobody's reining them in. I can see the housing market is a disgrace. It's beneficial to people who aren't even based in the country, it's just an asset for them, like a share in GlaxoSmithKline. That's how they're treating the housing market, and it's like, who is tackling this? And now the people that are tackling this, who's actually got a chance of making a difference? Because a lot of people will say, yeah, I believe in Greens, this and that. Well, come on, man. Could you ever see the Greens? Ever?
No chance. Not the Greens. No chance, mate. Labour have a chance. Labour are meant to be the alternative to,
but they're not
to the Tories
anymore. And it's like my friend.
Well, they are now. They are now. Yeah. Hence why the Blairites in the mist suddenly Corbyn's emergence shined light on them, and then now they're going crazy, you know.
I thought what they did on the day he got elected was scandalous.
Yeah.
For him to get elected and then 5 seconds later, I'm seeing transcripts of your resignation letter on the internet.
Yeah, it's like, a disgrace. Yeah.
Shukru Munna.
Yeah.
This goes out to you. First of all, you want to resign quickly. You resigned even quicker than you left the race. You've got a little bit of canvas scrutiny, and you dropped out of the race. Nah.
Ground ego.
And unfortunately, Chuka, you stand for more than just your politics, unfortunately, and you know what we're talking about. So for you to just leave the race like that and then resign like you did, I'm sorry, Chuka, I'm just glad I don't live in Streatham, because if I see you on road, fam, you're a road black, it's on sight. Instantly, cuz.
This is done on my Wi-Fi connection.
Now, but I felt like what those Labour guys did was scandalous. I've been raised in a household which, you know, traditionally has gone down for Labour, and when I look at a politician growing up, I believe that these were people of character. But in essence, what happened on that day was guys throwing the toys out of their pram. Like, it was.
I just think I think to me, how can you call yourself a politician and, as 252 repeatedly says, a nominal democracy, and yet throw your toys out the pram at the most democratic, you know, that's it. Like, you're the people who you're supposed to represent. You're supposed to put their ideologies forward. You're essentially saying, no, I don't stand for that.
That's what leaders.
Yeah, you're willing.
Serving.
You're willing. The funny thing is you're willing to hang around and still be an MP because that's beneficial to you. But you'll remain part of your party, so you keep your job. But how?
Tristram Hunt, they said you're the whiz kids.
What was I going to say?
You jump ship quick.
I was gonna make the point.
Ed Bulls' wife or partner. What happened to you?
I think we need like a disclaimer at the.
That no person is safe.
But that's why I've always, to be honest, I wouldn't have voted for him as leader. Actually, I would have done it in the last rounds. I like Andy Burnham because he does seem like somebody that does want to serve. He doesn't seem like your typical modern day politician. That's, for me, does. I don't serious.
Yeah, like Burnham is far too polished. Burnham's the kind of guy. That I'll be like, I really understand, you know, I get you, and then goes up there and does what he wants to do anyways. But you feel like, because he has that persona, exactly that polished presentation, exactly. You think that this guy, but no, really, he's part of that establishment.
You know, I would ask you, and it comes back to like what we're talking about when we said style and substance. I think the only thing for me that was in there, which it's hard to untangle the two strands, because ultimately in the country, like, you have to win enough votes to get elected, right? Regardless of what your substance is.
And you need that style, yeah.
And you need to connect with everyone. So you need to be able to connect with, you know, let's say if you're a Labour Party candidate, the people who you're trying to look after. But ultimately, at the end of the day, a large proportion of this country is blue. You need to go out and court, you know, rural areas.
Connect with everyone. Exactly.
You know what? You're right.
Osborne, the guy
You're
they're
right.
lining up, does he connect with everyone?
Definitely not. So with
You think
Osborne,
they're lining up Osborne?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think they agree
they're
with
lining him up.
Osborne
Yeah,
for
he's
I would say with Osborne definitely not. I think with Cameron, what is important to appreciate and remember is obviously you're someone who is curious about your the political landscape in which you live, right? You actively go out to find some things out, but it is also fair to say that I mean this in the most I don't mean any offense to anybody, but there are a lot of people who simply don't care, aren't interested, but still vote. So you need to capture their attention because they're not going to go out and read your manifesto. They maybe don't have access to resources. Then they're not that way inclined. So it is important to be able to go out and capture them in that 30-second newsreel that they see. Someone like David Cameron, of course,
who only won 24%, who only got voted by 24% of the electorate.
I definitely believe that he is a prime minister of, in both terms, lesser of all evils. That's why he was there. But ultimately, part of that was because the electorate and many of the people I've alluded to.
Cameron's less evil than Miliband.
No. Sorry, I don't mean. I mean in style. In style, they would have seen. Okay, this guy, he can talk, and he says he's going to do X, Y, Z. Fine, but do you get the point?
Yeah.
He can.
This is how people get.
He can articulate.
This is how people get played.
Ultimately,
This is how they get played.
But ultimately, it's a fact that like when you have a very short space. It's the same thing as marketing, right? You just need to articulate your point in the best way and most articulate way as quick as possible, and that's part of being a politician. So you can have bags of substance, you can have all of the great intentions in the world, but ultimately you need to capture the imagination of people who, quite frankly, won't give you a lot of their time.
Thing is, if you have a lot of substance, you will have to sacrifice a bit of style. Like people with, like the two are never like perfectly matched.
No, yeah.
So in some instances, you will have to sacrifice some style. I just wanted to make the point that in terms of voting, I didn't vote either. I didn't vote in the last election. Didn't vote in this election, will not be voting in the next election either. Simply because I don't think that if I look at some of the changes that have occurred in society, just all around the world really, some of the most impactful changes, transformational changes, they didn't occur through voting. They occurred through people starting a movement, political movements, activist movements, like movements that captured the imagination of people all across all societies. That's what really brings real change. If you want to, in this country, for example, black people didn't become less abused by the system, less discriminated against because of voting. Because they started social movements, and in instances where social movements, peaceful movements, didn't work out, in broad waterfront, they just fuck shit up and like burn shit and like just fuck shit up and that's what gets people to listen. That was not. Afterwards, things got better, but it wasn't voting that achieved that. If we're looking at America as well, in terms of like the civil rights movement, that didn't occur through voting. They couldn't even vote in the first place.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying. So that occurred through people going out, marching, civil disobedience, just connecting with all sectors of society, black, white, whatever, and then pushing that movement forward and going at the political establishment.
Just to throw it out there, do you believe, I'm not saying it's my opinion at all, but do you believe if you don't vote, you can have a gripe with what's been voted in legitimately?
Of course you can. Like I said, if you live in a democratic society, you have the right to vote or not to vote. So you can't tell me, because you didn't vote, you can't. Like, that's nonsense. I pay tax.
And you may not even respect any of the options that are there anyway.
I pay tax, I pay national insurance. Personally, I work
I agree with that. I agree with that. It's because when I just said it to somebody else, they were like, "Oh, but you didn't vote, so what are you complaining about?"
But I pay tax though. Exactly. So if you want to tell me I don't have a right to not to say anything, well, stop taking my taxes, stop taking national insurance. When you stop doing that and then I don't vote, okay, then you have a point. But as long as you keep taking my tax, as long as I keep paying national insurance, you ain't like, don't chat shit. Like, I have a right not to vote, just like I have a right to
Okay,
vote.
so to round up, if I, was going to say, okay, 30 seconds, tackling this whole London gentrification issue, what would you do?
We need a plurality in policies, in housing policy. So of course there's space for the free market, undoubtedly. but there's also space for more social housing as well, which has to be provided by the government, and government has to provide real concrete incentives for local boroughs to provide social housing. If it gets to the point where certain sectors or areas do have to be locked out from, which was what we kind of did previously anyways, where private developments can't just come in there, buy the place, construct the place, and then completely just give it out to the market to decide, then so be it. But number one, government has to intervene.
It should come like a inner city version of the greenbelt per se. You know, you can't build on the greenbelt.
Yeah, pretty much like this.
The inner city version of that.
Like this bit is only for social housing, that kind of thing. So you need direct intervention from the government, and you need government to provide boroughs with concrete incentives to build social housing and keep that plurality in terms of like demographics, in terms of like income and all that sort. So that would be my policy.
Cool. Kaiser?
Suggestion.
I'm a man of few words. So I believe in price caps on rent, but most importantly, exterminate the hipster.
Okay, cool. Sebastian?
Yeah, I don't think I could say too much on any particular policy, but I do think the attitude towards treating London as a city and London's land as something that just should undergo a fire sale or should be a free-for-all needs to change. And I think I think what was touched on by everyone right at the beginning of the program, viewing communities and people as communities made by a group of people who get together and create this diverse city that we live in. I think that needs to be valued a lot more, and as a result, I just think the approach that government, boroughs, etc. have, whatever things they can introduce to prevent this being the case, but I think we need to stop just treating this as a land to build high and wide on for just for certain few's economic benefit.
Cool. Yeah, man, just to follow on from that, I just believe, kind of building on from 252's point, there needs to be a level of protectionism in the areas which require it. And instead of, investing in sending envoys to foreign countries to bring in money, like invest within those areas, invest in the education, invest in the whole social landscape, so those people then also feel like they can grow, they can add value to where they're at, and they don't feel like they're just living in a shithole. Then all of a sudden, when they raise the prices in that shithole, they get booted out. So we do the. I do believe in capitalism. I do believe in being able to work hard and rise up. I do believe in meritocracy, but I don't believe in abuse for people that don't have the resources. So to end it there, it's been a great one this week. It's been a pleasure having 252 on here.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah. You can catch me at thefieldnegroessays.wordpress.com. I'm currently deactivated from Twitter, but I will be arriving months in the future. So at Battleside, that's my Twitter account, but I'm deactivated at the moment. So yeah. thefieldnegroessays.wordpress.com.
Cool. It's been Ground Ego, at Ground Ego on Twitter, Ground Ego on SoundCloud, and just keep up with us. A Facebook will be coming in the coming weeks. But yeah, just get in touch. If you're someone that listens in and thinks, you know what, I'd love to chat with these guys, I'd love to be on their show one week, then yeah, just get at us. Reach us, on Twitter at Ground Ego at gmail.com. Also, we've got Ola the Comedian coming on the show in the next few weeks. It's a really funny and intelligent guy. He has a show called Ahead of the Times, which is like a satirical, political show. If you're someone that watches the Today Show in the States, you should definitely check out Ahead of the Times. And you can also check out his DVD called The Comedian and His Wife. And it's available both on DVD and digital download from olathecomedian.com. Once again, Ground Ego, stay grounded, and see you next time.
Peace.
Nice.
Peace.